Hi, so as a review of the past few weeks of learning, we started by learning about the artist Zaha Hadid. Last week, you started our project by doing some research into landscapes and landscapes that you're familiar with. So I had you choose three landscapes from Google Images. One of them was a picture from Michigan or from the state that you're living in. One picture was a place you have traveled to, and another picture was a place you want to travel to. So this week I'm going to ask you to pick one of those three images to use as inspiration for your drawing. I chose the picture of Nevada, and I made a landscape picture and drew a building inspired by the landscape, actually inspired by this little tree here. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate my thinking process, my drawing process, and kind of how I was inspired by the landforms in the landscape picture of the Nevada desert. So for this project, you're going to need paper, pencils, and then you can use whatever you want to color. I actually use oil pastels, but if you have crayons, markers, or even paint at home, you could use any of those things. But please color in the entire picture and look at the colors that are in the landscape and try to replicate those as best as you can. And you can choose the color you want to for your building. I'm asking you to make a building design that replicates some of the organic nature forms that are in here. So to start, I kind of need to know what those things are. So I'm going to make a little bit of a drawing. And since I'll be drawing a building here, I want to leave this space a little bit empty, but I still want to have some of the mountains and stuff in the background of my picture. So I'll draw some mountain forms. And I'm just making my drawing in a light yellow, so I hope you guys can see it. I'm making it yellow because this isn't going to be the most important part of the drawing, but it is the part that is going to help me see and think about the organic forms in my picture. The one that I'm most interested in is this tree right here. So I think I'm going to make that a little bit more kind of a main focus in this picture. So you can make your reference picture a little bit bigger. I'm going to, since I'm using a split screen, I'm going to keep this the same size so I'm not trying to distract you from my demonstration. But if it's hard to see, you can make your picture a little bit bigger. And I'm kind of making a silly looking drawing, but this is kind of how I think this tree looks. These ovals I drew on top are kind of like the green leaves, and then these finger looking shapes look like the branches, or I should say the branches look like finger shapes. Kind of looks like a hand of an alien right now. And I think this is the most interesting form in this picture. There are a couple of other forms. There's some cactuses that look a little bit like this. Also kind of looks like the agave plant. That might actually be what it is. But we don't see these things in Michigan, so I think it's pretty interesting. And so I'm going to draw a couple of those over there. And this helps it look a lot like a desert, adding these few details. Now I want to design a building. So think about what your building could be made of. The artist we've been studying, Zaha Hadid, her buildings are kind of made of steel, glass, kind of more sturdy materials. So if I were to copy what she was doing, I'd probably choose a gray color. If I was going to make a large steel and glass building, the building could be a house, it could be a public building like a library or a school, it could be an office building, it could be an apartment building, whatever kind of building you want to create. Since I've got something in the desert here, I'm thinking maybe I can make a little, like a little house or something. But I think that I want to replicate this idea of this tree that I kind of created or recreated from my imagination, plus what I was looking at on the computer screen. So I'm going to make a rounded building. So it would be very round instead of square like most buildings are. And let's see. I want it to still look like a tree. So I'm going to have some parts of it kind of branching out. Like that. So your building design could be a drawing, and it should look like some of the forms you see in the actual landscape. I also really like these agave plant, or kind of look like tumbleweeds too. So I might put these on the tops of the these parts I have coming off of the building. So I'm going to kind of make some shapes like this. Since I'm using gray, it kind of also looks like wire. That's what I'm thinking about. So the color, you can choose whatever colors you would like to. I think I might color this in with a color that's not really natural to this landscape. In the landscape, I see a lot of red down here, and looks like the sand and dirt. There's a lot of green and gray kind of in the plants, like this tree, even in the picture, looks like it's pretty gray. The mountains color kind of reminds me of the ground, kind of reflects some of the gray, a little bit of the red. And then there's kind of a nice blue in the sky. It is a pretty cloudy picture, but the sky would be a nice blue. So I'm going to fast forward my coloring process. When you're done with your picture, I'd like you to take a photograph of it and post it on Google Classroom. I will put the specific instructions on the assignment.